sleep is important, and some say at least 8 hours for an adult. But the pressure from work, life, school, and family is taking so much from our time for rest. Joining me in this discussion is an amazing guest we'll meet when we return from this break. Stay with us. Welcome back, and this is still Kakli Faith Forum. I'm Evelyn and today we shall be discussing insomnia. It's my utmost pleasure to introduce to you Dr. Adedamola Adeogun. You are very much welcome, sir.
Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you here.
Same here.
Dr. Adedamola Adeogun is a spirited young man, a proficient general practitioner with about a decade of experience. He loves traveling, socializing, and having private moments. Moreover, he enjoys speaking and presenting, just like I do too. He has spoken in Lagos business schools and has been speakers at several events. You are very much welcome, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. So let's get to it. There's a thing people say about burning the midnight candle. And the Bible backs it up that we should bear our yoke in our youth. Do you think it's healthy to skip sleep in order to work?
Well, sleep is important, like you rightly said. Our body was designed to work and then get refreshed. So a good sleep should reinvigorate you, revitalize you, and rejuvenate you. Because if you're not refreshed, you won't be able to function optimally like you should function. So obviously there should be a balance between your work life and your relaxation. So part of your relaxation is sleep, and quality sleep equals a good lifestyle.
So doctor, you mean that if somebody is unable to have quality sleep, such a person will find it difficult to perform efficiently?
Yes, because your functionality has a lot to do with how refreshed you are. When you work, you're exposed to daily stress and pressures of your work or pressures of life in general.
Yes.
So you require adequate amounts of rest to make sure that you are rejuvenated and you're in your best frame of mind and you have physical strength to carry out your routine activities. So it's important.
Very correct. As an individual, how much time do you need to actually feel refreshed, or would I say vigorated, to perform efficiently at work?
For most people, it is usually recommended that they have about 7 to 9 hours of sleep. So usually we know how tough that can be in a place like Lagos and in some other very busy cities.
Yes.
But you have to strike a crucial balance between your work life and your relaxation. So it's so important to make sure that you get all the rest you need so that you can function optimally. As
you mentioned earlier, stress affecting good sleep. What other risk factors or causes are responsible for insomnia?
Okay, insomnia is actually a sleep disorder that is characterized by having difficulty in initiating sleep for some people, while in some other people it is a problem with maintaining sleep, while for some other people they just have a general poor quality of sleep, and in other people they actually do sleep but they wake up feeling unrefreshed after apparently having a period of rest. Usually the factors that affect insomnia are numerous. So you can classify some of them as physical factors, some of them as psychological factors, some of them as due to illness and underlying illness, and some of them due to some drugs. Certain drugs can also,
drugs affect proper sleep?
Yes, absolutely. Some drugs can agitate you, some drugs can make you just toss around in bed, and then some drugs or beverages like caffeine, for instance, can actually distort your normal sleep pattern. So it's important that we know all this. Then your work schedule too. If you work night shifts or you're anticipating a major life event or a function, or you're preparing for an exam, all those things have a role to play in the quality of sleep.
So you mean individuals who have high consumption of caffeinated drinks are actually at a risk of insomnia?
Yes, because caffeine has a way of actually exciting you. It's a stimulant, actually, and then it can actually keep you alert. And then if you take it, and because it's addictive, you know, a lot of people get used to it, and, you know, and over time, they find it hard to actually break off from it. And apart from you taking it in beverages, some medications also contain caffeine, especially the painkillers. So while you're trying to take care of your pain, you may actually be worsening your sleep condition.
How does one know that he or she has insomnia?
Okay, like I said, insomnia, is characterized by poor quality of sleep, and then the individual would find out that, it's very hard to fall asleep. Initiating sleep is a problem. And then for some people, they can actually sleep, but they wake up earlier than they ought to. And when they wake up earlier, they cannot go back to sleep again. Some people wake up to pee, some people wake up to check their phones, or maybe a call wakes them up or something, or they're anticipating something the next day and they're restless all through the night. So when they wake up, they cannot go back to sleep. So obviously, like I said, a lot of factors come into play. So if you want to really have a good quality of sleep, you have to make sure that the physical environment is right. Because the illumination in where you're sleeping counts. The exposure to light, the sound or noise around you counts. And also the temperature, if you have extremes of temperature, whether too hot or too cold, can actually also influence your quality of sleep. And then also, our devices, the electronics and all that too. Your screen time, also affects your quality of sleep.
There is this feature on mobile phones. They call it the night mode. Do you think it has a proper way of inducing sleep? For instance, someone wakes up in the middle of the night, probably to pee or something, and he picks up the phone. And, even if the phone is on night mode, do you think the person that has insomnia would probably be induced to go back or return to sleep?
Well, in my own opinion, I think what the sleep mode will just do is just to actually dim the illumination from your device. And basically, well, that can just help tell your brain, okay, you are in a dark environment, or you don't have so much light, reflecting into your eyes to make your brain think it's daytime. So it can actually help a bit, but that is not what will put you to sleep. If you have insomnia, you should see your medical practitioner to find out if there's an underlying reason for it, and then to do the needful corrections that need to be made.
If I get you right, you mean that night mode is more like an eye protection feature, not basically something to induce?
It would not necessarily induce sleep if you have some underlying factors responsible for your lack of sleep.
Thank you very much. Your thought and perspective is very refreshing, but we have to go on a very quick break now. Let us find out who the saint of the week is.
Our saint of the week is Saint Peter Chanel. Saint Peter Chanel was born on 12th July 1803, the fifth of 8 children in a farming family with a small holding in southwestern France. He grew up in rural France working as a shepherd. Now, while in school, he loved to read about French foreign missionaries and wanted to emulate them. So he decided, I will become a missionary priest. After seminary studies, Peter was ordained a diocesan priest and served in parishes. But a few years later, he became one of the founding members of the Society of Mary, the Marists. And as a Marist father, he voyaged on the high seas at last to fulfill his missionary dreams. He sailed to one of the tiniest, remotest and unknown islands in the South Pacific. In 1837, Father Peter Chanel stepped ashore the speck of volcanic rock called Futuna to preach there. In 1837, Father Peter Chanel stepped ashore the speck of volcanic rock called Futuna to preach there for the very first time the name of Jesus Christ. Now, for 3.5 years on Futuna, Chanel and his companion battled with language difficulties, strange customs and food, sickness, malnutrition, loneliness. Now, hardest to bear was the seeming lack of success in adult conversions. But they persevered, living and preaching the gospel in spite of the king's tolerance wearing thin. The lay brother who was with him later said of Father Chanel, because of his labors, he was often burned by the heat of the sun and famished with hunger, and he would return home wet with sweat and completely exhausted. Yet he always remained in good spirits, courageous and energetic. In 1841, when the local chieftain's son asked to be baptized, the chieftain sent his son-in-law, Musumusu, to stop the conversion. A fight within the family ensued. Musumusu then went to Father Chanel's home and clubbed the priest with an axe until his blood puddled in the dirt. Father Peter was not yet 40 years old when his missionary dream was fulfilled in martyrdom, giving Oshona its patron saint. The island of Futuna, in which our saint had such mixed success, converted completely and totally a few years after St. Peter's martyrdom. Musumusu himself repented of his crime and was baptized. The island is, even in modern times, almost 100% Catholic. An impressive church is the heart of every small town, and St. Peter Chanel's body now rests in a large basilica in the city of Poi. The beauty and smell of tropical flowers always adorn the church, and on the night of April 27th, the vigil of his feast day, hundreds of Futunians sleep outside the basilica, waiting for the festivities of their saint's feast day to begin the next morning. The brief life and sudden death of St. Peter Chanel is powerful proof of how the blood of the martyrs waters the seeds of the church. Now, are you discouraged because your labors and efforts seem to be yielding little success? Let us invoke the intercession of the saint who bore his sufferings with a smile. St. Peter Chanel, pray for us.
Welcome back, and this is still Catholic Faith Forum. Our discussion is still on insomnia. So, doctor, in Lagos, there's something I notice. Whenever I come to Lagos, there's this tension in the atmosphere. Everybody's on the edge. Everybody is, what's going to go wrong now? I hope I'm not going to be a victim. I hope I'm not getting into trouble and stuff like that. Does that contribute to insomnia?
Yes, because like you rightly said, everybody is cautious about security, cautious about what time am I going to get home, the kind of traffic you would encounter during the day.
Yes.
Yeah, those are forms of pressure that actually accumulative and they can add up to the stress and burden of your day. Typically in Lagos, you can imagine people leaving their homes at 5 a.m. and they're encountering a couple of hours of traffic, and they've not actually started their own day per se at work. Wow. So you can imagine adding the pressure of the job to whatever they've encountered earlier and not getting enough sleep through the night also. You know, that's a lot of stress on people. That's why we have people coming down with a lot of mental health issues and other chronic illnesses. So we, like I rightly said, I think everybody should strike a balance, between their work time and their relaxation.
As an individual, have you been able to strike that balance?
Well, I think everybody is still learning. I don't think anybody has gotten the exact balance that you need to actually rest as you should. Because if you think of all the things you have lined up for the next day and everything you've done, of course, it's normal for you to reflect on things that happened the previous day. It's very hard for you to get the right balance of sleep and work, but we're working on it.
So this pressure coming from place of residence, is it possible to actually overcome this kind of pressure, or would I say reduce the stresses? Are there methods or ways in which someone can actually reduce that stress such that it doesn't there are no complications at the end of the day?
Well, the thing is, you try to get home as soon as you can after you've done your best for the day. I think it's important for everybody to know their limits, especially when it comes to your work.
Even with the traffic?
Yes, at least your working hour, if you have to close by 4 or 5 p.m., make sure you leave at that 4 or 5, no extra time. You know, just know that you are done for the day, you've put in your best for the day. And then you know that, okay, I need to go home and refresh and relax and prepare for the next day. While we're trying to leave the office as soon as we can, is for us to get home in time, tidy up 1 or 2 things you may need to do with family at home, and then head to bed on time, so that at least you can catch some good hours of sleep before the next day.
Is there a difference, or what is the difference between sleep deprivation and insomnia?
Okay, that's a good question, because insomnia, like we defined, is a sleep disorder that has to do with problems with initiating sleep or maintaining sleep, poor quality of sleep, or not feeling refreshed after sleeping. But sleep deprivation is just simply not getting enough sleep. And most of the time, sleep deprivation refers to things that are kind of external, such that they are modifiable. Once you take away those factors, you know, the person is expected to sleep back normally again. And sleep deprivation occurs maybe when you're preparing for an exam, you are a nursing mother, you are taking care of an ill child, or you have a major life event coming up. While, you know, preparing for those things, you may not get enough hours of sleep. But after all that has passed, you know, during your holiday period, you know, your sleep pattern returns to normal. But insomnia is a more chronic thing in terms of duration. So it lasts for a longer period of time, and it may have other underlying conditions associated with it. That's why it's important to scrutinize it and get to the bottom of what the root cause is.
Now, we have some students that they'll tell you, I'm a night reader, I prefer reading in the night. And, you know, in the long run, when they do this for 2 weeks, 1 month, 6 months, because they want to do very well in their academics, do you advise that they should, you know, be so fixed or constant such that it affects their concentration level even in the daytime?
Well, for me, I would say you should know yourself first and foremost, because people are different and people learn differently. It's important that while you're trying to study hard to get good grades, you must actually give yourself enough rest to get your brain refreshed, because research has even shown that your memory and your learning is better when you are adequately rested. So it's important that you strike a good balance between your studying and your rest time. So it's important that no matter the exam you are writing or any exam you are preparing for, you should make sure you get adequate sleep, because you also need it for energy replenishment. Because what's the point of studying so hard and you get to the exam hall and you're lethargic and there's no energy to complete all the tasks? You know, it's not going to be productive.
So I want to give a personal experience now. There are times that when I have proper sleep at night, it's not like as if I was disturbed or sought, but I get to class and I still doze or I fall asleep at some point. Is that some aspect of insomnia, or does that mean that I'm not getting quality sleep? I want you to shed more light on that.
I think in your case, it's just a case of you can't cheat nature. You know, you've been busy and then your body just calls for rest, basically. And when you're not giving it the rest it needs, it may start popping up when you least expect it. So you can start dozing in class or during an interview and all that just because you're not well rested.
Let's take another break. Let's invite our Know Your Fake crew. Stay with us.
Hi guys, welcome to today's episode of Know Your Faith series. I am Jeffrey, and today we want to answer this question. Can a Catholic priest carry a gun? The doctors of the church and the magisterium have made it clear that self-defense is not only a right, but in some cases, a duty. The Catechism of the Catholic Church in paragraph 2265 teaches us that legitimate defense can be not only a right, but a grave duty for one who is responsible for the life of others. The defense of the common good requires that an unjust aggressor be rendered unable to cause harm. For this reason, those who legitimately hold authority also have the right to use arms to repel aggressors against the civil community entrusted to their responsibility. In a case where a priest who is in grave danger and whose aggressor is coming at him or his congregation with arms such as guns, is also allowed to use arms such as guns as a form of defense. However, we must note that in a case where the aggressor comes as the priest with something like a pistol, the priest should not use an arm as powerful as a bazooka or something as feeble as a stick to defend himself. He is to use an arm which is at par with that which the aggressor is using. So in summary, 1. A priest is allowed to defend himself in cases where possible. 2. It is not just a right for the priest to defend himself and his congregation, but it is a duty. 3. He is only to use an arm which is at par with that which the aggressor is using. So that's it for today. Thanks for watching this video. Till next time, be bold and be Catholic.
Welcome back, and if you're joining us for the first time, this is still Catholic Faith Forum. I'm Evelyn, and our discussion is centered on insomnia. So, doctor, are there complications of insomnia?
Yes, there are a lot of things that can result from prolonged insomnia. Because insomnia can actually be something that is transient, you know, it's just for a brief period, and then it can be chronic, lasting a long period of time, 6 months and beyond. And because of poor quality of sleep, the body perceives it as being under stress perpetually. So at the end of the day, it tells on the health and the mental state of the patient. So most of the things that can arise from not getting quality sleep includes lack of energy, and then you can have poor focus and concentration.
True.
You can have poor performance
Wow.
on your routine activities, things that you normally do, you find out that you're not doing them well again. Then you can actually have memory decline. You may not be able to recall details like
Really?
before. Yes. And then you can also have tension headaches. You feel a kind of headache. It looks like there's a band on your head, a very tight headache around your head. And then you can also have unexplained body aches and pains. You're just having muscular aches and pains here and there. And then you could also be irritable. You know, people come to you. That happens to me a lot. You know, if I'm not well rested and somebody is asking me a question, I may just snap at the person, and the person is wondering, what did I do? But you don't know, it's not about you. It's actually about me, you know, not feeling too okay with myself. So irritability, mood disturbances, and then you're also in a state of perpetual stress, like I said, and then ultimately high blood pressure can also result from poor sleep.
Do you think sleep medications may be habit-forming?
Yes, certainly. Most sleep medications, you know, they call them drugs of dependency because after a while, your body is dependent on them, and then you're not able to fall asleep normally without using them. And then the terrible thing about some of them is that if you use them for a prolonged period of time, your body now tolerates it to the point that though you started on a low dose, you may need to continually increase the dose to maintain the same effects. So at the end of the day, people can now start using very, very high doses of those things, and I'm sure you've heard of celebrities that have died from overdose of sleep medications. So
you mean a continual or a consistent consumption of a particular amount of a sleep medication could lead to someone actually becoming resistant to even that drug, such that it doesn't produce the same effect, like inducing the sleep?
Yes, because your body has been used to that dose. For instance, you start with a dose of 1.5. After a while, 1.5 will not put you to sleep. You may go to 3. Then from there, 3 is not enough. You may need to double it. And then from there, you just need to, you know, up it to the point that you tip into overdose. And overdose of sleeping pills can actually kill. What
do you advise for an individual who is already dependent on his sleep medication?
Well, I would advise that first and foremost, you need to see your medical practitioner to find out if you have underlying factors responsible for your sleep disorder. And then you have to find out other things you can do that are non-medication related that can actually help to put you to sleep better.
Thank you very much, doctor. In addition, there are saints of the church that help individuals who cannot have proper sleep. Saint Joseph, Saint John Bosco, Saint Mary Magdalene, and Saint Faustina. We have now come to the end of our discussion. Thank you very much, Dr. Adedamola Adeogun. Thank you for honoring our invitation. We hope to do this some other time.
Thank you for having me.
And thanks to you for staying with us from the beginning till this moment. If you have suggestions or questions, drop them in the comment section. Subscribe and turn on your notifications so you don't miss out on any of our content. Follow us on our social media handles at CFF on TV, on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. I remain Evelyn Iwoha. Until next time, keep being saints in jeans and shirts. Bye-bye.